At Wellington Arch at approximately 10 p.m. tonight our time, 1 o'clock in London, 1 p.m, the coffin is transferred then to a state hearse to travel to Windsor. By 1 a.m. our time, 4 p.m. in London, the committal service begins in St George's Chapel. It'll be attended by Prime Ministers and Governors-General from Commonwealth countries, including Anthony Albanese, the Queen's household, past and present, including personal staff who work or have worked on the private estates, and senior members of the royal family. The coffin will sit for the last time on its catafalque, the imperial state crown, the orb and the sceptre still on top of the coffin. The Dean of Windsor will conduct the service, and hymns will be sung by the choirs of St George's Chapel. As the final sacred song dies away, Mark Appleby, the crown jeweller, will remove the crown, the orb and the sceptre from the coffin, passed on one by one to the Dean of Windsor, who'll place them on the high altar. King Charles will then place the Queen's Company Camp colour of the Grenadier Guards on his mother's coffin. The last public sight of the Queen's coffin will be as it's lowered through an opening in the floor of St George's Chapel into the royal vault, where dozens of royal figures have been interred since the 15th century. It is where the Duke of Edinburgh lies since his funeral at the chapel on April 17 last year. But the late Queen will not remain in the vault, and nor will her late husband. As Tony Wright has splendidly revealed, and I quote, "Within hours of the last mourner's departing, her coffin will be retrieved and taken into the little memorial chapel that she had built in 1969 at her direction as the final resting place of her father. There, in this tiny, tiny sanctuary in the world's largest occupied castle, the late Queen will be buried alongside her father, her mother and her sister Margaret, the Countess of Snowdon. There'll be no public coverage of this final stage. The remains of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, will be then moved into the miniature chapel to be reburied with his wife of almost 74 years. The chapel is so small that it's said only the Queen's children, 4 of them, will be able to attend. As Tony Wright relates, Princess Margaret, who died in 2002, and I quote Tony, quote, "was so intent on being placed in the little chapel that she left orders," it was reported at the time, "that she be cremated, knowing there would not be enough room for an extra coffin once Elizabeth and Philip's grave joined that of her father and the Queen Mother," unquote. The Queen's mother has been entombed with her late husband, George VI, the Queen's sister, Margaret's ashes alongside. And now as we speak, Queen Elizabeth II is on her way to the tiny family chapel where she joins her family. And within days, Prince Philip will be placed in the same resting place. And the rituals that we've seen since Elizabeth's death on September 8 will have ended. The final chapter of the latest Elizabethan era will be complete.